Welcome back to Keep Up News Channel. First words of cabin crew member saved from wreckage of doomed South Korean jet as experts reveal how he and female colleague miraculously survived fireball disaster that left 179 dead. The first words of the two people who survived the fatal Jeju airplane crash that killed 179 other people on Sunday have been revealed. The Jeju airplane skidded off the runway in the town of Muin, 180 miles south of Seoul, slammed into a concrete barrier and burst into flames on Sunday after its landing gear apparently failed to deploy. All but two of the 181 people aboard the Boeing 737-800 were killed in one of South Korea's worst aviation disasters, officials said. One survivor, a 33-year-old male flight attendant who has only been identified by his last name, Lee, was reportedly disoriented when he woke up in Ua Women's University Hospital in Seoul. According to his doctors, he asked what happened and why am I here upon waking up. He also said that he had been wearing his seatbelt before the crash, but that he had no recollection of anything after that. Lee, who according to local media was in charge of passenger service at the back of the plane, suffered a fractured left shoulder and injuries to his head. He was initially taken to a hospital in Mokpo, around 190 miles south of Seoul, before being transferred to the capital city. A fellow survivor, a 25-year-old female flight attendant who has only been identified by her last name, Koo, is being treated at Asan Medical Center in eastern Seoul. A hospital official told local media, Koo is currently being treated for scalp lacerations and ankle fractures, and is undergoing treatment for abdominal diagnosis. There is no major threat to her life or anything, but we did not have time to ask about the accident. Lee, meanwhile, may be at risk of suffering from full-body paralysis as an aftereffect of the deadly crash, according to hospital officials. Director Ju Woong of Seoul National University Hospital told reporters, "There is a possibility of aftereffects such as full-body paralysis, so we are conducting intensive observation and pain relief treatment in parallel." It comes as an official in charge of search and rescue operations at Muin International Airport told the New York Times that the crash was so bad that only the tail, where both surviving flight attendants were, was immediately recognizable. Lee Jong-hyun told the newspaper, "We could not recognize the rest of the fuselage." Sunday's crash was the worst for any South Korean airline since a 1997 Korean air crash in Guam that killed more than 200 people, Transportation Ministry data showed. So far, 141 out of 179 victims have been identified, leaving many devastated family members demanding answers from authorities. South Korea's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport said at a press briefing at Muin International Airport that all 179 bodies have been moved to a temporary morgue. "Once we are ready to transfer the bodies following autopsies by investigation agencies, we will contact the families," an official said. Belongings of the victims are currently being picked up from the runway, as part of the investigations into the causes of the crash. John Jae-young, whose daughter Mi-suk was one of 179 who died on board Jeju Airlines Flight 2216, says he still cannot believe what happened. "When I saw the accident video, the plane seemed out of control," the 71-year-old father said. "The pilots probably had no choice but to do it. My daughter, who was only in her mid-40s, ended up like this. This is unbelievable." Video of the plane's approach show it hitting a bird, before it circled the runway and attempted to land with its flaps up. Experts believe this suggests the aircraft suffered hydraulic failure, which could have also prevented the landing gear from deploying. Leading air safety expert David Learmount told Sky News that having a concrete wall at the end of the runway was verging on criminal and said the collision with the wall was the defining moment of the disaster. He suggested that had the wall not been there, the plane would have instead hit a fence, slid over a road and likely stopped in a nearby field. "I think everybody would have been alive, the pilots might have suffered some damage going through the security fence or something like that. But I even suspect they might have survived," Mr. Learmount said. Airline pilots also chimed in, saying that the jet likely lost power on at least one engine and suffered a hydraulic failure after the plane was hit by a bird. After abandoning a first landing attempt due to a loss of power, the pilots touched down on the runway at high speed on their second attempt, without extending the flaps and deploying speed brakes that would normally slow the plane down. The thrust reverser, used to slow down the aircraft once on the ground, was only deployed on one engine. While the flaps and landing gear are powered by the hydraulic system, they can be extended manually in an emergency. Captain Denis Davidov, who flies a Boeing 737-800 for Ukraine International Airlines, told The Times, "It seems they had hydraulics to deploy the one reverser but no flaps or landing gear. As a pilot of the same plane, it's very strange." Some experts said that a bird strike alone would not have crippled the landing gear. Australian airline safety expert Jeffrey Dell said, "I've never seen a bird strike prevent the landing gear from being extended." Airline news editor Jeffrey Thomas said that bird strikes typically don't cause the loss of an airplane by themselves and questioned why firefighters didn't attend to the aircraft as it was landing on the runway. He said, "Why weren't they in attendance when the plane touched down? And why did the aircraft touch down so far down the runway? And why was there a brick wall at the end of the runway?" But Zhu Zhongwan dismissed concerns about having the concrete wall after the end of the runway, saying that both ends of the runway have safety zones with green buffer areas before reaching the outer wall, The Independent reports. He added that the airport was designed according to standard aviation safety guidelines, even if the wall may appear closer than it actually is. Source: dailymail.co.uk. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.